There was a small village at the edge of a forest where everyone knew each other by name. In that village lived a young boy named Daniel. He was different from the other children. He walked with a limp because he was born with a twisted leg. The other kids would run and play in the fields, but Daniel could only watch from a distance. He never complained, but his eyes always carried a sadness that broke his mother's heart. One day, a traveling circus came to the village. Everyone was excited. There were acrobats, clowns, animals, and a strong man who could lift enormous weights. But what caught Daniel's attention was a tightrope walker, a man who walked across a thin rope high above the ground with perfect balance and grace. Daniel watched him with wide eyes, mesmerized. For the first time in his life, he saw someone move with such beauty and freedom. After the show, Daniel limped over to the tightrope walker and asked, "Sir, how do you do that? How do you walk so perfectly?" The man looked down at the boy and smiled kindly. "It is not about walking perfectly, young one. It is about finding your balance, no matter how shaky the ground beneath you feels." Daniel did not fully understand, but those words stayed with him. Years passed. Daniel grew older, but his leg never healed. He still limped. He still felt the stares of people who saw him as broken. One winter, a terrible storm hit the village. The river that ran through the center of the town overflowed, and the old wooden bridge that connected the village to the outside world was destroyed. The villagers panicked. Without that bridge, they could not travel to the nearby town to get food, medicine, or supplies. The mayor called a meeting. "We need to build a new bridge, but it will take weeks, and we do not have that much time. Winter is harsh, and people are already getting sick." Everyone looked at each other in despair. Then, from the back of the crowd, Daniel spoke up. "I can build a temporary bridge." People turned and stared at him. Some laughed. Others shook their heads. "Daniel, you cannot even walk properly. How will you build a bridge?" someone said mockingly. But Daniel did not back down. "I may not walk like you, but I know how to balance weight. I know how to distribute pressure. I have been watching, learning, and thinking about this my whole life." The mayor, desperate and out of options, agreed to let him try. Daniel worked day and night. He used ropes, wooden planks, and stones. He calculated angles and weight distribution. People watched him, skeptical at first, but slowly they began to see something extraordinary. Daniel did not work like everyone else. He did not rely on strength or speed. He relied on patience, precision, and balance. He tested every plank. He adjusted every rope. He made sure that even the weakest part of the bridge could hold the weight. After 5 days of relentless work, the bridge was complete. It was not grand or beautiful, but it was strong. The mayor was the first to test it. He walked across slowly, and the bridge held firm. Then others followed. Families crossed with heavy bags. Carts rolled over it without a single crack. The village erupted in cheers. Daniel had done what no one believed he could do. That night, the entire village gathered around a fire to celebrate. The mayor stood up and said, "Daniel, you saved us. How did you do it? How did someone who struggles to walk build something so strong?" Daniel looked into the fire, his face calm and humble. "Because I know what it feels like to be unsteady. I know what it feels like when the ground beneath you is not solid. So I built a bridge that could hold anyone, no matter how heavy their burden, no matter how weak they feel. I built it the way I wish the world was built for me." Silence fell over the crowd. People who had mocked him, ignored him, and pitied him now saw him in a completely different light. He was not broken. He was not weak. He was wise in ways they would never understand. From that day on, Daniel became the village's builder. Whenever something needed to be constructed, people came to him. Not because he was the strongest or the fastest, but because he understood balance. He understood that strength is not always about power. Sometimes it is about knowing how to hold things together when everything feels like it is falling apart. Years later, when Daniel was an old man, a young girl with a twisted arm came to him. She was crying because the other children made fun of her. She asked him, "Why did God make me like this? Why am I different?" Daniel knelt down, looked into her eyes, and said, "You are not broken, little one. You are being shaped. The world will try to tell you that you are less because you are different. But the truth is, people like us see things others cannot see. We feel things others cannot feel. And because of that, we build things others cannot build. Your difference is not your weakness. It is your gift. Never forget that." The little girl stopped crying. She hugged Daniel tightly and whispered, "Thank you." Daniel smiled, and in that moment, he realized something powerful. His twisted leg was never a curse. It was the very thing that taught him how to stand strong when life tried to break him. It was the thing that gave him the wisdom to help others find their balance, too. The story of Daniel teaches us something we often forget. The world measures strength by what we can lift, how fast we can run, or how perfectly we can perform. But true strength is not about perfection. It is about resilience. It is about taking the very thing that the world calls your weakness and turning it into your greatest gift. Everyone has something they struggle with. Everyone has a limp, a scar, a wound that will not heal. But those struggles do not define your worth. They refine it. They teach you empathy. They teach you patience. They teach you how to build bridges for others who feel just as broken as you once did. So if you are struggling today, if you feel like the world has written you off, remember this. You are not less than anyone else. You are simply being prepared for something greater. Your pain has purpose. Your struggle has meaning. And one day, you will use it to help someone else find their way. That is the true measure of strength.